Well, hello. Welcome to live stream number 4, where we're going to finish up probably most of the design on the Shaper Cam Plate for Adam Booth's G&E Shaper that he acquired. We've been emailing each other probably last week. He's finally getting his final measurements on it. He had a viewer send him, let me get my center monitor up here, had a viewer send him a cam plate. This is the one that from their Practical Machinist that I had gotten, but it had these measurements on it, which was fairly detailed drawing, and that's what we drew the first one off of. And I sent it to him, and then he was gonna either get one printed or make one, or I don't remember exactly what he did. Well, he had a viewer send him one and his was for a 24-inch shaper. This is Adam's 32-inch G&E, 36, I can't remember which one it is. But the cam plate, he said, come from a 24-inch one, so he needed some stuff a little different. And basically, where this sits on the, the mounting bracket, it's too deep. So the 24 might have a different shaped bar on it. I mean, who knows? But he needed it modified. So he sent me these drawings here. And so I thought it was a perfect opportunity to redraw it and then use the user parameter settings again in Fusion 360. So what I did was I took the first drawing that I did and copied it, and then named all these measurements that I had on it. That way, when anybody wanted to change it, all they had to do was change the user parameter. And I'll put a shareable link up in the description, so anybody that needs this cam plate, that you're more than welcome to download it and use it for yourself. If you use Fusion 360, if not, you can download it as a step file, and you'd have to change the measurements that way. But it's using Fusion 360, you can just modify this user parameter table, and it has things like the overall length, the overall height, the overall depth, and we'll go through each one how I did it, so you'll know how we can do it. That way, when Adam decides, that he's got the measurements that he needs down pat, all I have to go in is change one little measurement, boom, the drawing's done, the model's done, and then also the drawing's done. I'll show you the finished model here. So this is the finished model based on the measurements that he sent me. So, we modified this part back here, and I think we changed this angle to a more user-friendly angle to 30, and this is 18 still. He raised the overall height to, I can't remember exactly what he wants, but you will find it in the user table. And he wanted to add this radius in the bottom, which I just drew a 3/8 radius, and he might want more, but it's very easy to change using the user parameter settings. So not only, updating the user parameter settings. All right, now my Space Mouse doesn't want to cooperate, so we'll go back the old way. I done lost my train of thought here. Oh, but we have the drawing too. So when you update the model using the user parameter settings and save it, you'll automatically bring up the drawing, and it'll come up with a little warning up here in the top. And all you have to do is click that, and I'll show you. We'll change something, and it'll come back. And you'll be able to get those changes right onto your drawing also. So I printed out a list of the original measurements, so if I got crazy I wouldn't forget. So let's go back to the drawing here, and we'll go back to the beginning. So let me go to my home view and just go back to the beginning. So what I did, I started a new drawing, and good practice is always create a new component. So you go right click and hit new component. So we're not going to use this one, so I'm just going to delete that one. I did that and named it G&E Cam Plate. And then the next thing we did was we did a sketch. So I'm going to edit this sketch. And what I did was we created formulas or parameters for all of the measurements. So if you hover over it, you see it says FX. So it's related back to the table. So it says overall height. So the overall height he wanted was 3.75 inches. And then the overall length is what this one is 8.375. So when we got done with that, we stopped the sketch and we we're going to extrude the depth using the press pull command. So if we hover over that, I'll show where I edit it. You see that it starts off in a negative direction, so the depth is a negative overall depth. And in this case, the overall depth is 1.625. And then the next step, we'll edit that sketch, was, let me rotate it back to the back because that's where all the cuts are taking place on this side. These are the new measurements that Adam wanted. So a 1/2 inch from this edge, which is a formula. And the problem with doing a lot of these user parameters is, what do you name them? I mean, it's hard to come up with individual names. So, you know, I had to come up with, you know, this is the, what do we call this? And there, you know, you could call it whatever you want. The undermounting clearance. So the undermount clearance from the side of the machine, from the bar to the side of the machine. So when you slide that over the bar, that's how much clearance you're going to have. You know, whatever measurement he wants, there's what we're going to do. And then this is the bottom mounting height. This is the mounting block height and the mounting block depth, or width in this case. So those are all fixed back to the user parameter table. So then when I got done with that, we need to extrude that shape out of here. So we'll stop the sketch, and the next step was to extrude the shape out of it. So if we edit that, remember on the nozzle that I drew last week or the week before, I made a mistake. When I did my extrusions, I just pulled it completely through the model. When what I should have done was name it the overall length plus an inch. Or if you're moving in a negative direction, you have to minus an inch, or minus a tenth, or minus 10 inches. It doesn't matter as long as you go past the part. But if you're going to use the user parameter settings, you know, use them to all of its capabilities. So if you make this thing 30 inches long, it's still going to be 30 inches plus that 1 inch of clearance. So if we rotate this all the way around, you'll see that it goes past the part an inch, which is plenty. So we'll hit OK, and now that part is extruded out. And then the next part, let's see what I do. I don't even remember what I did. Oh, we put the slots in it. So the slots are drawn on the back side, exactly where they needed to go, and it's all by formulas. So this is based on formula, what did I call this? Come on now, work with me here. Back to the start of the slot. So if you want to move that forward this way or this way, you just change that measurement in there. If you want to change the slot width, you just change those measurements in there. Since it has since these two lines have a tangent constraint on this circle, and these are all fixed back to the slot height, if you change the slot height, the parallel lines will change with it. So I'm sure it's this 3/4 inch bolt, and we allowed a thousandths clearance for it. If he wants more, we'll just change it. Or if he wants less, use a 1/2 inch. I'm not exactly sure. It looks like it's a 3/4 inch bolt. So, but either way, we can change that. If he wants to change the length of the slot, so right now it's set at 5.187, which is off the original drawing, but we can easily change that to anything that he wants off of that. So when you're done with that, then you need to extrude the hole or the slot out of it. So we edit that, and then we just pull that through about 6 inches or 3 inches in this case, which is plenty. You could do it overall width, you know, which would get you the measurement of whatever this is. So if it's 3 inches, then you're going to extrude this 3 inches. So I just cut it all the way through. And then the next thing we drew was this front cutout. Or did I drew it on the back side? But either way. And these are all based on measurements too. So this is based off of the slot length. So if we hover over it, it's the bottom length of that part. So whatever he wants to change that bottom length. So if we make the slot longer, he might want to make this bottom length longer for aesthetic reasons more than anything else. It's not anything that's going to hurt anything. So we'll stop that sketch, and then we extruded that piece out, which you just cut it all the way through. So you would do it like that, and it just cuts that part completely out. And then the next thing we did, let's see, edit sketch, was put these measurements on here. Now with him raising this height to the 3 3/4 overall, it changed this nose height. So we've talked to him, and I'm pretty sure he's good with it. He needed the height here because he didn't think that pawl, when it rode up this ramp, was enough to actuate the downfeed mechanism. So he raised it up, and the only concern I had was with this nose height, because we went from 0.4 inches to almost 3/4 of an inch, or a little over 3/4 of an inch. So we wanted to make sure that that paw's not going to interfere right there, that it'll catch and then ride the ramp up. So if he wants this changed, we can change that, which would change this angle. So, but all these can be changed, through that parameter table. So this is the, if you hover over it, it's the top angle, and this is probably the ramp angle, or what, nose beam angle. So whatever you want to name this stuff, you can name it. It's, Fusion 360 is really, really good about doing stuff like this. So we're done with that. So now we need to extrude all that stuff off of it. So the next step is exactly that. We just extrude that out. And all I did was I used the parameter again, the overall depth plus an inch. Or if you're moving in a negative direction, you minus an inch. But either way, so no matter how wide you make that piece, it'll always cut that off. All right, then the next part was that angle here. And what dictates this angle is this top width here to this point here. So if this nose beam height, let me rotate this. If this nose beam height changes, this is linked to this corner here. So that line, it'll just float to whatever you make this top measurement to this height here. So, or you could just leave it like that. You could leave it like that. It's not as pleasing to look at. Pretty simple, but, and then of course you just extrude that part away. And I used a formula of the overall length plus an inch. And then the last thing is to put a fillet. Oops, let's cancel that. The last thing is this fillet in the corner here. So all I did was, we call that, what is it called? Bottom edge fillet. So whatever you want to make that. So that's simple. That's the drawing completed. So using the parameter settings again, let me see if I can get both of these on the screen at the same time. Let's do this fillet first. So if you wanted to change that fillet, you just, where this bottom edge fillet says 0.375, if you want a 1/2 inch fillet, it's a 1/2 inch fillet. You see how it changed the drawing just like that. If you want a 1 inch, which I don't know, 1 inch would work. I mean, it'd work, but not correctly. Let's do a 0.75. It gets a little flat, but you get the point. I'm going to change it back to 3/4 or 3/8. And on the drawing, let's move it back to 1/2. So now it's a 1/2. So if we have the drawing, whoops, you have to save it first before it'll change in the drawing. So I'm going to save the file, and then we'll go to the drawing. And you see I have a warning popped up. It said my reference material had changed. So do I want to update the drawing? And I do. So I just click the little link here, and everything updates. All the drawings update, all the measurements update, everything's done that quick. So you don't have to do anything else. You can send this out to the shop. You're good to go. So back over here, let's change this back to 0.37 or 3/8 of an inch radius here. 0.375. If I can type. So 3/8 of an inch radius. So that changed it back. Now, if you want to change, like say this depth here. So we know that one was, the mounting block height is 1.004. But say he wants to change it to 1.5. There it is, 1.5. So, it changes all, the parameters of the part. So we'll change them back to 0.04. And you see how the angles, all the angles changed. So how that the overall height didn't change. It just changed since we changed the height in here. All this changed. So this angle changed here, and all this changed here. So if you have 1.25 inch mounting block that's width, or in his case, it's probably 1 inch with a 4/1000 clearance, so you can slide the thing. So it automatically changes that. If we want to change the length to 10 inches, we just change it to 10 inches. You know, it's pretty easy. So what was that? 8.375. So every dimension now is linked back to this user table. Excuse me. So it makes it super simple to change all the measurements. So that's what we do. And then to share this, you could put it on GrabCAD if you wanted to, or you could put it on, let's see, what else? Grab and Go. Is it Grab and Go? Well, any of the other CAD sharing sites. But with Fusion 360, this is the what do you call this part over here? The directory. It has a share a public link, and I'm allowing it to be downloaded and shared with everyone. Well, shoot, let's just do it. I'll copy the link here. Let me open me up a browser and pull it over here to the center, and we're going to paste it. Never done this, so we're going to see how fast it is. So everything is in Fusion 360 is saved to the cloud, and there it is. So whenever I upload the latest version, that link will always give the final version of it. So if you wanted to download it, you can download it anything in here. You can download it to the Fusion 360 or Inventor, an IGES file or a step file, which is pretty common with 3D stuff. Let's see, a DXF and a drawing. STL file if you're going to print it, 3D print it, STL file for that. OBJs for scans and stuff like that. So I'm not sure on SketchUp and all these other ones. I'm more AutoCAD guy, so I'm more familiar with that. But it lets you do all this stuff. You can mark it up. You know, if he wants to change that, you know, you can do that and send it, whatever. He's been emailing me, so that's not a big deal. So I like it. It looks good. Not a bad little computer render either. So to doing it live anyway. But so that's what we had today. Now we have all this sent out, ready to go. This has been sent to Adam, so hopefully soon we'll see his shaper making these parts. It's been fun. I've thoroughly enjoyed the process of, you know, working on this for him. He does so much, or all the YouTube guys do so much for all of us that are just getting started or just doing it as a hobby, that I'm more than happy to give back. So let's see. Anybody got any questions or anything? Let me see here. Must be something good on TV again today. I did the Super Bowl like a mistake. It's probably the Daytona 500 or racing or something. Anyway, I just wanted to share that. What have I been doing here? Oh, started on our parts washing booth, or parts washer. So I've been in a need rebuilding the Sydney lathe. Some of the parts are huge. The saddle is 30 inches or 24 by 30. The apron is, you know, it's pretty big too. The tailstock, all this stuff is big. And what made me do it is when I was tearing my tailstock apart on the last week's video, I put everything in the plastic tub and must have been a little rough, and dropped the not dropped it, just I put a hole in my plastic tub, so as quick as I was putting the purple power in, it came out. So that was what sent me over the edge. So we started the soaker tub. Let me see if I have any pictures here. Let's see. Bring up my Google Photos here. Oh yeah. So let me get back to my the center monitor here. Excuse me. So what we did, I went out and got some 1/8 inch or 11 gauge sheet metal from our local supplier, and we cut it up. Oops, wrong way. So I started out with an angle grinder with a cutting disc on it. Didn't work so good. I mean, it worked. Don't get me wrong. It worked. Shouldn't say it didn't work. But I found out a Lennox metal cutting blade in the skill saw works just like going through wood. So I cut all the pieces up and I put magnets on it. This is waiting on my brother to get here or there. This was Saturday, I believe. And then he came by and started welding it all up. And we had to do a little work on my welder. One of the O-rings was letting the gas by, so we were getting a little porosity. So I had to stop, put new O-rings on the lining, but we were good to go after that. The little Hobart stood up like a champ. I've had that thing for years. He was impressed. He's a Lincoln guy, so most educators, they use I shouldn't do that. Most educators use Lincoln products, and that's what he uses. But he was pretty impressed with my little Hobart. I've had that thing for years. But here it is installed about how I want it. So this deep one here is 20 inches deep, 20 inches tall, 30 inches deep, 48 inches this way. We left this room back here because there's going to be a jib crane, jib crane, that we're going to put here. It's going to be mounted on the concrete floor, and it's going to be attached on the wall or in the ceiling corner plate. Haven't decided how I'm going to do that yet. I need to get in the attic and look how that corner's done. And then it'll have a 8-foot or a 9-foot arm there, just something that'll lift about 250 pounds. Right here's the saddle, and it's all you want to pick up by yourself. I mean, all you want. You don't want it. It's heavy. So we're going to make a expanded metal basket for this, and probably put some sort of aeration, or maybe even a paddle in it, something to get the stuff motivated, keep it moving, circulating. So when you get done with it here, you can lift it out of here and move it over here and just to rinse it off. And I'm probably going to mount one of those instant hot water heaters on the wall up here, and just run a hot water line so you can rinse all the parts off in hot water. And then it'll be a catch basin underneath it, so you can get all the oil and crap off of it before you just dump the water. So I don't use any harsh chemicals or anything like that, so I prefer to be a little safe myself. So I think I've rambled on enough. Anyway, this video is probably come out next week by the time I get it edited and stuff. So let's see. Anything else? Any questions? Nope. All right. We'll call it a night then. So let's see. What is it? That's it. All right. So let's see. What are we doing on next week? Oh, we're going to cut the drains in this. Cut the drains for the wash pits, and that'll be it. So until next week. See ya.